All right, stay on with us, Roman, because also with us on the broadcast is Valentin Yakushik, Professor, Department of International Relations and Social Sciences, also joining us from Kiev. Valentin, I want to understand from you, while at one end this visit can be looked at as providing further support to Ukraine, a contrarian view also is that this may escalate the war with Russia. How is Ukraine looking at it?
Well, in fact, the escalation of war will take place anyway, in a week or in a couple of weeks, because now none of the parts to the war can accept truth, can accept stopping war at this point. Russian leadership tries to capture more territories. Ukrainians are prepared for a new attack, and the West, led by the United States, is fully supporting Ukraine as saying that there is no place for stopping war at this moment. So now we have a symbolic moment when President of the United States of America, Biden, visits Ukraine, encourage Ukrainians to continue war. And the same thing is happening in Russia when Russian leader will talk on the 21st to the nation, and he will probably say the similar things as President Biden is saying to Ukrainians. So the tragedy in Ukraine will continue for the coming weeks and maybe months. Only after these fierce fightings there will be seen what are the results. Either Ukrainians manage to advance in the south and to approach to Crimea, or the Russian troops will continue its advance in Donbass and in Zaporizhia direction. Only after this, the wise approach of fighting peace will take place. Now, for entailing to Indians, it's something what we know from Indian cultural tradition. It's a kind of Kurukshetra in which two neighboring and brotherly nations are fighting, and now they do not feel that they are brothers. But at some point, when there will be change of the regime in Russia, and when there is peaceful solution found for fair peace, not for the destruction of a Russian nation, as some people in the West are saying, destroying Russian into 20 or 40 nations. It's not a constructive approach, but the approach in which Ukraine, which control its territory, when Ukraine will be a multicultural, multilanguage nation, and when the reconstruction of the Ukrainian economy will take place, and not only of the economy, but the reconstruction of the social life. Now the structures, the infrastructures of Ukraine are destroyed. Now we are in a tragic situation. The Russian leadership made a very serious mistake for its nation almost 1 year ago when it decided to attack Ukraine. It created tragedy not only for Ukrainian nation, but also for Russian nation. At some point, we will find a peaceful solution, fair solution, where Ukrainian social, cultural life, Ukrainian infrastructures, Ukrainian economy will be reconstructed. And we will need help from the United States, from the West, from India, from China, from the whole world. Now it's decisive moment when we need to find peaceful solution. But as I mentioned before, in the nearest weeks and maybe couple of months, it is not possible. It's a kind of Kurukshetra which we have to go through and then to find reasonable approaches in order to save Ukraine, in order to save the people in Russia, because they are in a tragic situation, and to save Europeans who are suffering from this war, who are suffering from economic problems and from the threat of a nuclear war. Nuclear war has to be avoided. And what we need now the wise people in the whole world find approaches to Ukrainians and to Russians and to Americans and to Europeans, and to explain what has to be a wise approach, a balanced approach, which saves Europe, which saves Ukraine, which saves Russia, which saves world, because we are at the tragic situation when a nuclear war is near. So it's when Indians, you know how Kurukshetra battle was developing. On each next step, there were more and more powerful weapons used, and then most of the participants were perished, were killed, and new stage in Indian development started. We should try to avoid this kind of approach in Europe, in the center of Europe, in Ukraine, and save people from being destroyed by a disastrous war, but insane war, which started on the 24th of February last year.